Hi folks, I've made an update to my cooking setup here in my truck, and I have several stoves, but I wanted a little bit more convenience, and I wanted the ability also to cook with my cast iron, which you need a significant size stove to cook with a cast iron. Those little bitty ultralight backpacking stoves are great for fixing coffee, but you don't want to put cast iron on them. So what I did is I got myself one of these little canister stoves, and this is a small one. It's a gas one. I don't know if the brand makes any difference, but this one looked like it was about the smallest, and it works well. However, I like having my stove level, and when you go to park your vehicle and get ready to cook, the chances of being level are not as good as they could be if you were at home cooking on your home stove. So I had this little piece of wood about that big with 3 screw things in it and a little level on it, and I would use that to level up my little backpacking stove. That's not big enough for this canister stove, so I made it bigger. And this has 4 supporting points instead of 3. The one I had before, I just had 3 because I wasn't putting a lot of weight on it, and it wasn't really that tippy being small. But I'm putting cast iron on there now, so I decided to go with 4 supporting points. And one of the points is just simply a screw. The other 3 have these little hammer-in nut things and about a 2-inch screw, and I use stainless steel on this. But I've got 3 of these screws, so I can sit here and I can adjust these screws, and I can compensate for a slope up to, I don't know, 1.5 inches possibly. And if you think about trying to cook something, if you're boiling water, it don't make any difference whatsoever. But if you're trying to seriously cook something, and you've got a pan on there, and you put oil on it, you don't want all the oil running down to one side. That doesn't do you any good. You want it fairly level. And this lets me do that. And all I've got to do is sit here and turn these little knobs until this little bubble level here, when the bubble's right in the middle, that means it's level. And then I can poke around on, right now it's floppy, see there? That ain't no good either. And the tailgate of my truck, I want to do something different. This has got that corrugated plastic on it, and it hurts my knees, but it also means you can't set anything on. Okay, now I'm pretty level, and it's not floppy at all. So now I can put this stove on here, and that easily holds my cast iron skillet. and a cast iron lid, which if you use cast iron, get a cast iron lid. It makes a difference. You can bake in these things now if you got a lid on them. Now, if I had put another screw on here, then I could have adjustments on all four corners and I could get it level pretty much anywhere. But since I was recycling everything, including the board, because this board used to be part of my cabinet in here in my truck, I only had 3 screws. And I had this little wood screw in my workshop. So I didn't put 4 screws on there. You may want to. But I can still level it up. And it still has 4 legs. It just one's not adjustable. And depending on how the things are sloped, you may want to turn it around like this or something. And I made it a little bigger than my stove with the idea that I can put my spatula over on one side and have it on this stove support as well. So I'm not laying it down on the dirt or wherever I happen to be putting this stove. Most of the time it's going to be on my tailgate. But I could turn around and set it on the ground if I wanted to, and I'd have a nice place to put my spatula or my cooking fork or my chopsticks, whatever I'm cooking with. And I can cook with my cast iron. And this little stove fits in my truck better than the bigger ones. That was a big motivator for me. And I'm using an 8-inch cast iron skillet. If I was using a bigger skillet, you wouldn't want this little stove because it's small, and because it's small, if you use a big pan, that big pan will get over the top of that canister, fuel canister, and it can make it hot. That's what I've read. And even right on the label it says don't use a big pot on this. My 8-inch cast iron skillet works just fine. It fits nicely. I've cooked on it and checked the temperature of this side over here, and it gets slightly warm. I've also got a windscreen. It's about that tall. It's a big, tall windscreen. These little screws that I use for adjusting, they kind of help keep the windscreen in place. So an extra benefit there. But this gives you a level cooking surface, so whenever you put your skillet down on there and you drop a tab of butter for your oil, it's not all going to run to one side. You can have your skillet properly lubricated. And if you're using a lot of oil, like you're frying some French fries or something, or maybe even frying a fish, doing a little fish fry, which you can do fish fry in an 8-inch skillet. All the oil's not running over to one side. You can't do a fish fry if your skillet's all wonky like that. You can't do a proper French fry either. Anyway, that's my latest upgrade, and it's just silly easy to build. This one is made of scrap 1/2-inch plywood, I think. Yeah, it looks like 1/2-inch plywood. And mine is this nice olive drab green, kind of camouflage looking. And there's a reason that it's that color. It's because I had just enough paint in a paint can and a spray can left. It just covered that. So that's right. I'm trying to use every resource that I can in a recycled way, so I don't have to spend money on this. But I'm getting everything set up for a trip. I'll be making a trip in a few weeks. And getting this put together is one of the things on the list for doing that trip. I hope you found this helpful.